As a young citizen of India, armed with technology, knowledge, and love for my nation, with a vision of transforming India into a developed nation, I'm joining Shobhit University. What about you?
Very good morning to all the participants from India and abroad. Shobhit Institute of Engineering and Technology Meerut, deemed to be university, and its centers of excellence, Center for Informatics Development Solutions and Application, CIDSA, and Center for Industry 4.0 Technology Studies and Application, CITSA, in association with African Asian Rural Development Organization, ORDO, New Delhi, organized this weekly international webinar series on open source digital technologies towards self-reliant India, Atmanirbhar Bharat, 25th September 2021. On behalf of the Honorable Chancellor, His Excellency the Secretary General ORDO, Honorable Vice Chancellor, the faculty members of the university, and on my behalf and as Professor Emeritus and Chairman of Centers of Excellence, Center for Agricultural Informatics and E-Governance Research Studies, Center for Agribusiness and Disaster Management Studies, and Center for Informatics Development Solutions and Applications, and Center for Industry 4.0 Technology Studies and Application, and Center for Health Informatics and Computing. Let me welcome our guest speakers of the today's webinar, Mr. Ashish Puntambekar, Ashish Puntambekar, and good morning, Mr. Ashish, for today's program. He is a specialist in informatics project design, initiator of Construct India Mission, lead designer Defense Industrial Corridor Project, and former head strategic planning for technology group Reliance Industries, Mumbai, state of Maharashtra. Today's topic is very important: Vivekananda secondary education and skills development mega project. Let me repeat once again: Vivekananda secondary education and skills development mega project, its potential impact on rural entrepreneurship and the rural economy in India. The keywords, if you see, this is secondary education, skill development, mega project, potential impact, where on rural entrepreneurship and rural economy in India. I wish to inform the participants and the guest speaker that under this international webinar series, the university and these two centers of excellence, Center for Informatics Development Solutions and Applications and Center for Industry 4.0 Technology Studies and Applications, have organized 43 lectures so far in the area of open technologies to provision simple and economical IT infrastructure, a roadmap for students using free and open source software and reaching goals of Atmanirbhar Bharat, free and open source software adoption and business models, open data platform for smart digital government, technology imperatives make in India for self-reliance, edge artificial intelligence, data governance for self-reliant India, and Digital India transforming governance and society. India's email service, citizens@indiamail.com in 22 constitutionally recognized languages, ecosystem architecture for digital transformation, education system cyber critical infrastructure, seizing opportunities in open innovation and value creation network in digital world for self-reliant economy, ensuring food safety and compliance through technology, Digital India urgent need for semiconductor manufacturing in India, technology investment in agriculture value chain, role of foreign direct investments, entrepreneurship and skill development, artificial intelligence design pathways, the rise of platform economy, revisiting value chain governance, the era of automation, industrial robotics, and Industry 4.0, Indo-German perspective of technology transfer, skill gap analysis, and opportunities. Role of artificial intelligence in healthcare, current developments in diagnosis and vaccine research. Digital agri-tech and agri-startup perspective. Health informatics, network value chain, e-health systems and beyond. Leveraging emerging technologies for ensuring transparent and traceable agriculture and food supply chain. Unleash the power of citizen development for enterprise software development. E-governance models towards sustained quality services to citizens backed up by technology. Indian MSMEs to adopt Industry 4.0 technology capabilities. Urgent need for mentorship and accelerator program. Building public digital platform using microservices and APIs. Health informatics network value chain, early childhood development and learning. Health informatics network value chain, clinical AI, interface between machine learning and health informatics. Health informatics network value chain, importance of social medicine and community health in times of health emergency. Gravity filter, a simple low-cost solution to the drinking water treatment in rural India. Open source GovTech startups empowering growth with automation. Digital transformation in small enterprises and small businesses of India, challenges and opportunities. National Digital Twin Program, need for a robust geospatial infrastructure. Industry 4.0 in MSMEs, benefits of indigenously developed CollabCAD, the software from National Informatics Center. Mass serialization and counterfeiting solutions to fight illicit trade. Cybersecurity, risk, challenges and solutions, intelligence approach to reduce the cyber risk. New Internet IPv6 root server toward Atmanirbhar Connected Bharat. India startups, reflections and possible policy intervention needed for scaling up to Gram Panchayat. Blockchain and crypto for digital assets platform, pathways for global trade. Robotic as a service, leverage technology to solve enterprise challenges. Space startups connecting to international markets with emerging business models, enabling technologies for future vision. And today is the 44th edition of this very important webinar series. We'll have the talk by our guest speaker, Mr. Ashish, specialist in infrastructure project design, interior of Construct India mission, lead designer, defense industrial corridor project. And on the topic, Vivekananda Secondary Education and Skill Development Megaproject, its potential impact on rural entrepreneurship and the rural economy in India. This webinar series is talked about various topics, which is a growing list. And Atmanirbhar Bharat is the road ahead. It is a vision of our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi, of making India a self-reliant nation, rested on 5 I's: intent, inclusion, investment, infrastructure, and innovation. And based on 5 pillars: quantum jump in economy, infrastructure, one that represents modern India; system, 21st century technology driven, vibrant demography, source of energy for self-reliant India; and demand, whereby the strength of our demand and supply chain should be utilized to full capacity. So today's topic is based on this Atmanirbhar Bharat road ahead missions, 5 I's and 5 pillars. This was announced on 15th May 2020 by the central government through a special and comprehensive economic package of rupees 20 lakh crore that accounts for 10% of India's GDP to bring the economy back on track. And it is very nice to know that India's economy is back on track now. Local for local to make it for global, It is a demand-based economy system which is self-producing and self-consuming. Make in India, make for India, and make for global. The reforms announced have been systematic, planned, integrated, interconnected, and futuristic for creating strong enterprises, generating employment, and robust supply chain. This is our intent. Design India, design hub of the world, and intellectual property rights. Central government to impart training and awareness to 10 lakh students on IPR matters in this Azadi Ka Amrut Mahotsav from 15th August 2021 to 15th August 2022. Intellectual property is the key for success of Startup India, Make in India, and Design in India. Powered by intellectual property, India can be the innovation powerhouse of the world. Designed to make India the design hub of world. And there exists an international IPR policy for creative India and innovative India. Digital India program aims to transform India into a knowledge-based economy and a digitally empowered society. Digital India program aims to transform India into a knowledge-based economy and a digitally empowered society. So a digital empowered society is from secondary education, and which will be make India a knowledge-based economy. And the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology published a report titled India's $1 billion digital opportunity in collaboration with McKinsey and Company on 20th February 2019. And digital world, it is a rise of platform economy. And platform economy is a tendency for commerce to increasingly move towards and favor digital platform business models. The platform economy provides an opportunity for SMEs and startups, is emerging, and it is essential, digital ecosystem essential for digital transformation in the digital world. And this is very important when we look into secondary education, and which Mr. Ashish will explain effectively in his address, which are all the digital transformation technology which make the digital ecosystem is successful, which brings in desired results. Cloud computing, mobile phones, IoT platforms, social media, GPS, advanced human computer interaction, authentication and intrusion detection, 3D printing, smart sensors, augmented reality, analysis of big data and advanced algorithm, and user data collection. These technologies will bring in secondary education very effectively, irrespective of whether rural area or an urban area. Today we have one teacher for 30 students, and it will be reversed to one student, many teachers, not only in India, from throughout the world. Emerging technologies, for example, let me quote it that information theory of Claude Elwood Shannon, he pronounced in 1948. And in 1999, Mr. Kevin Ashton pronounced Internet of Things. These two technologies, information theory of 1948 and information technology of 1999, have impacted digital technological applications very decisively in various development fields. In agriculture, you see that we have seen green revolution, GREEN, but today it's going to face and is to be impacted by another technology version. It is called green, GRIN. Green means genomics, genome. R means robotics, I means informatics, and N means nanotechnology. So these four areas, green technology is going to have an impact on education sector, whether higher education or secondary education or vocational education or childhood education or primary education and middle education. And future of agriculture is based on these technologies. IoT, big data analytics, smart farming, agriculture education, be in secondary education, agriculture schools, agriculture polytechnic, agriculture IIT, ITIs. We don't have in this country. India is an agrarian economy, but we have agriculture colleges. But we don't have agriculture schools, we don't have agriculture polytechnic, don't have agriculture ITIs to take care of the 85% of the small and marginal farmers in the country. to operationalize the agriculture technology which are being invented or discovered or developed by Indian Council of Agricultural Research, which are of about 100 in number, and about 75 agricultural university in the country, 450 agriculture colleges. This is to quote it agriculture education as an example where we are lacking behind to reach the last mile connectivity of 85% of small and marginal farmers of totally 14.5 crore farmer in the country, those who have operational holdings. Frontier technology in digital systems in the planet as announced by UN. They talk about satellite, drone and sensors, cloud and edge computing, artificial intelligence and machine learning, Internet of Things, platforms and social media, blockchain and distributed databases, open source software and commercial software, mobile phones and applications, augmented and virtual reality. So these are all these 6 plus 6 plus, these 9 technologies will bring in a lot of challenges and opportunities and solutions for our educational sector. Industry 4.0 is today, but this Industry 4.0 is not only for industries, it is also for agriculture, it is also for health sector, it is also for education sector, it is also for finance sector. And Industry 5.0 is tomorrow. The key technologies are graded as ABCD. A means artificial intelligence, analytics and operations research. B is blockchain. C is cloud, IoT, 4G, 5G communications. D is big data, and E is ecosystems. And the May 2018, the report on digital transformation initiative of World Economic Forum identified following 7 technologies as being fundamental to the ongoing solutions, revolutions. AI is become a denominator for everything, and autonomous vehicles, and big data analytics and cloud, and big data and customs manufacturing, 3D printing, IoT and connected devices, robots and drones, and social media platform. If these 7 technologies are made available and our students from secondary educations are understood these 7 technologies, they will become scientists and technocrats and technologists in the secondary education level itself. When they get into higher education, they will become inventors, entrepreneurs, and so on and so forth. First is emerging technologies, which is based on AI and IoT. So fundamental education on artificial intelligence and IoT in the secondary educations are must, especially for rural students, because they have fantastic knowledge to invent. And the second one is that it is to engineer systems that are smart, which is once again based on AI. Any smart systems is built on where AI can help, artificial intelligence. Then where blockchain will help, it is on decentralized and trustworthy systems. So AI for smart systems and blockchain will help to build up decentralized and trustworthy systems. And then connected devices and IoT will come in for networked, linking new sources of data. So A, B, C. A means AI, B means blockchain, and C means connected devices. Once again, why I quoted is that secondary education or education sector is going to be revolutionized by these 3 categories of technologies. And now today, the promotion of this technology understanding is not limited to only the school teacher who teach information technology, the computer science department of engineering colleges, the computer science department of IITs and NITs and Institute of Science. Every teacher should be an information technology specialist, whether he or she teaches history, geography, languages, vernacular languages, and that economics, physics, biology and zoology, chemistry, and so on, mathematics, and so on and so forth. It is becoming a denominator for every aspect, every subject, which it has to be it is like a foundation. And in the history of technology, emerging technologies are contemporary and advances and innovation in the various fields of technology. So, and there are, that the salient features of national education policy, which I thought that I should, quote it, which I would like to quote it from the salient features of national education policy 2020, of which secondary education, revamp of secondary education is one of the very considered, policy feature. India to become a global study organization. From the day of Nalanda was an universal, world university. There was no technology, there was no communication, but people traveled through ships and came to Nalanda. 10,000 students, so many teachers, so many discipline. How we are able to, India was able to attract 10,000 students from different parts of the world to Nalanda. Today we have internet, high-speed internet and technologies and so on and so forth. Why India cannot become a globe, to become a global study destination, Vishwa Guru. Then entire education system is broadly categorized as school education and higher education. And it is not the secondary level is gone. It's a school education and higher education. And revamp of school education system proposed: foundational, preparatory, middle. This middle is class 6 to 8, 6, 7, 8. And secondary is now 9, 10, 11, 12. Previously, it is secondary and higher secondary. Under the new education policy, it is class 9, class 10, class 11, and class 12. And there is also an exit option for vocational studies. By the end of 2021, a new and comprehensive national curriculum framework for teachers' education will be formulated by National Council of Teachers' Education. And based on the principle of National Education Policy 2020. And the policy also aims to introduce 4 integrated B.Ed program with lateral entry by 2030, and also proposed teachers eligibility test to cover teachers across all stages: foundational, preparatory, middle, secondary of school education. By 2022, common guiding set of national professional standards for teachers education. And it will be teachers, national professional standards for teachers to be developed by a National Council for Teachers Education in consultation with the NCRT. And National Education 2020 proposes to take lead in preparing professionals in cutting-edge areas such as artificial intelligence, 3D printing, big data analytics, genomics, biotechnology, and nanotechnology, and neuroscience for important application to health, environment, and sustainable living. And by 2025, this policy emphasized at least 50% of the learners through the school and higher education system shall have exposure to vocational education. And also suggests that online digital education and ensuring equitable use of technology. And the policy also says the need for public digital infrastructure, online teaching platforms and tools, content creation, a digital repository, and dissemination of e-content, and incentive for teachers to teach online blended learning. And I think we will be hearing a lot on this direction from today's lecture. And there are also some challenges which I would like to quote from one of the paper which was published in 2019. Secondary education challenge in India. Students are facing challenges, schools are facing challenges, and what is the way forward? 2 problems, major problems which the students are facing: learning gaps from elementary education. Because that, under right to education policy, that up to 8th standard there is no exams. School facing challenges: teachers availability and competency, poor IT infrastructure, and absence of life skills training. 3 problems: teachers availability and competency, poor IT infrastructure, and absence of life skill training. The way forward also suggested in this paper, which I would like to quote: improvements in secondary educations are crucial. Looking at solutions that are able to deliver systems transformation at scale. looking to partner with education companies and NGOs that have relevant experience in secondary education, grades 9, 10, 11, 12. Looking to partner with organizations to span a wide range of interventions, including teachers training, assessments, strategies, and effective use of technology in secondary education. Of course, COVID-19 had its impact in school education, throughout the world, and in particular India. And technology paves the way for education, thus helping the students and teachers to connect virtually through online classrooms, webinars, digital examination, and so on and so forth. But practically on ground, digital divide has enlarged, widening gap between students in rural area and students in urban area during this COVID situation using digital gadgets. And this is an important thing, that schools were closed. Consequently, there was a rapid increase in use of remote education resources, both old media, radio and television, new online classrooms, YouTube videos and message service, WhatsApp, and etc. etc. With this background, let me turn to the address by our guest speaker, Mr. Ashish and Puntambekar, specialist in infrastructure project design, initiator of Construct India mission, lead designer, Defense Industrial Corridor project, and former head strategic planning for technology group Reliance Industry, Mumbai, on this very important topic, Vivekananda secondary education skills development and Megaproject. And this topic will motivate and galvanize the participants watching our telecast through facebook.com, Shobhit University India, or youtube.com, Shobhit University in, or linkedin.com/company/Shobhit-University, for motivating them to harness the power of transformers, technology and capital to establish edutech startups to become open APIs for effective collaboration with the emerging deep edutech startups in the country to strengthen the topics of today. According to the synopsis of the guest speaker, a group of 26 experts, senior educationalists, teachers, product designers, financial innovators, architects, and administrators have designed the Vivekananda secondary education mega projects. Mr. Ashish, in his blog, he wrote it, "We are looking for partners to build the first pilot, fully residential school to test various concepts and digital technology, digital technologies. Industry parties can, get in touch." Therefore, and he also quoted, I will also quote it from another paper. Therefore, the issue now stands out is to implement the mega project in the education sector so that the country can rapidly march toward prosperity. This is an article from Professor Sarwar Saifullah Khalid, a retired professor of economics, BCS General Education cadre, in Financial Express, May 24, 2017. Let me introduce our guest speaker to the participants. Mr. Ashish has over 27 years of experience working with some of the finest talent globally in the energy and infrastructure sector, and specifically in the area of large infrastructure project design, strategy design, where he is a specialist. He has been lead designer for the Defense Industrial Corridor project, which has received an investment commitment of rupees 40,000 crores from the government of India in the February 2008 Union Budget. The Prime Minister personally launched the defense equipment manufacturing project, and 2 large DICs will now to be built at Bundelkhand in Uttar Pradesh and along the Chennai-Bangalore route in project mode. Likely commissioning date of both DICs is January 2027. Before setting up as a private consultant, as he served as a head of strategic planning for the technology group at Reliance Industries, he has been the convener of the company's international advisory board with the Harvard economist, former G7 finance ministers, foreign ambassadors, and defense analysts as members. His expertise in the geopolitics of petroleum, his deep understanding of Middle East history and politics, and his knowledge of technology shifts in the energy industry have earned him a name in the energy analyst community internationally. He is an expert invitee at the Asian Development Bank, where his work on urban equity withdrawal-based financing has been presented. He has also been an invited speaker on TEDx to talk about ideas that can triple the size of Indian economy by 2030-32. Apart from this, he has written articles on geopolitics, energy security, military, industrial strategy for the Indian Defense Review magazine. Ashish has worked in a number of diverse roles. He started his career as a project engineer, working in a large petrochemical complex, and then moved to various increasingly senior engineering, business, and senior management positions on assignments involving power plants, LNG ports, LNG terminals, oil refineries, pipelines. Also worked as an energy derivative trader, and where he has traded crude oil flat price and petroleum product derivatives on all major commodity exchanges and OTC markets and investment banks around the world. Over the years, he has designed several multi-billion-dollar projects which are under active consideration by Indian government. The Defense Industrial Corridor project, Indian East Coast Energy Corridor project, the Vivekananda Secondary Education and Skill Development Mega Projects, and the Mumbai Mega Project, East Waterfront and Artificial Islands. In the Mumbai Mega Project, East Waterfront and Artificial Islands, Ashish is the initiator of Construct India Mission, which has received official sponsorship from the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India. The Construct India Mission, together with its financing plan, now form the backbone of rupees 100 lakh crore national infrastructure pipeline of the Government of India. The national infrastructure pipeline has been designed with the objective of creating 45 million new jobs in the construction sector in India by 2027. Of all the projects that he has designed, the Vivekananda Secondary Education and Skill Development Project is his flagship and favorite project. This is a project which can transform not just India, but the whole of South Asia through its broad and expansively tolerant philosophy which comes from Swami Vivekananda. Ashish has a bachelor degree in mechanical engineering and a master's degree in international business. I welcome Mr. Ashish and Puntambekar to today's international webinar series on open source digital technology for self-reliant India, Atmanirbhar Bharat, on the topic, very important topic. And this project, as you claim that it is very special to your heart, Vivekananda Secondary Education and Skill Development Mega Projects. And it is very important, secondary education and skill development, and its potential impact for rural entrepreneurship and the rural economy in India. Over to you, Mr. Ashish, and we are waiting eagerly for your address. Over to you.
Thank you very much, sir. I would like to thank Shobhit University, Ardo, and Professor Moni for giving me this opportunity to deliver the, to showcase the Vivekananda Secondary Education Mega Project and what it can do for India, and not just for India, but South Asia, and maybe the ideas that we are going to talk about can be used in Africa as well, because we're going to focus on, how to broad-based development. And this is something that we'll be discussing in this webinar. And I'm very grateful for this opportunity to make this presentation. So can we move on to the presentation and okay. See this project, we're a group of 26 people who have worked on this. The financial design for the project to raise almost 14.95 lakh crores has come from Dr. Urjit Patel, who is the former RBI governor, and I have detailed it and literally plugged and played the various systems and the various innovative pools of finance to make it happen. So Urjit told me, when I went and talked to him, I said, see, we want to do this, and how do we finance it? So Dr. Patel said that, you use the National Highway Authority structure to make this thing happen. So there's a special investment vehicle created, and you can have various innovative pools of financing coming into this structure to generate the large amounts of capital that are needed for it. Now, why do we need a very large project in secondary education? I'll just explain that. And can we move to the next slide, please? Next, you skip 2 slides. Yeah. So these are the 26 people who have contributed to it. Yeah. Go ahead, please. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah. This is the main. See, what are the problems in India's school system? I'm going to spend time on this because people need to understand what the scale of the problem is. The first thing that is happening is, we've got around close to 8.58 lakh schools in the country. And the money that comes from the central government is reaching these schools late. It takes 6 to 7 months. This is the first problem. So I'm going to discuss the various problems. So this is the first thing. So it takes around 6 to 7 months for this money that is released in Delhi to reach the schools, because education is a state subject and there are coordination issues. So, by the time the money reaches a village school, it takes time. Secondly, when the money does reach, the school principals are not aware, and they have not got clear instructions about where the money can be used. Should it be used to buy furniture? Should it be used to buy books? Should it be used to buy uniforms? So there's lack of clarity there. And this kind of, non-clear messaging is affecting the work of almost 200 million children and 5.23 million teachers across the Indian school system. So this is something that we have tried to solve in this the Vivekananda Megaproject, and we've structured it as short-term measures, medium-term measures, and long-term measures that need to be done to make this thing happen. So so this is a short-term, for part 1 of the project, which we will talk about. The second thing is the very high dropout rates. Now, why are there dropout rates in Indian schools? If you look at the graphic, see, we have a very large number of primary schools, and there's around 39% dropout when children move from class 5 to class 6. There's 39% dropout because there's just not enough schools. We've got a shortage of almost 2 lakh schools between class 5 and class 6. And then when the children move from class 8 to class 9, there's another shortage of almost 3.53 lakh schools. So there's a 89% dropout by the time a child goes to class 9. Okay, so this needs to be very clearly understood. And this is the main reason why we have designed this project. The Vivekananda Secondary Education Mega Project has been built and has been conceived to fill this huge gap in secondary education. If you look at the number of years that have gone by, I would estimate close to 300 million children have dropped out of schools because there was no school to go to. This is a fact. The third thing is poor teacher quality. There was a 2007 NUPA report, National University of Educational Planning and Administration, that said that 46% of Indian teachers have not studied beyond class 12 and 25% have not studied beyond class 10. See, this has implications not only for learning, it has also got huge implications for women's safety in India and women's, violence against women. So this is where we've done some studies here, and we'll show you in the course of this thing why improving teacher quality has become a national security issue in India. I'm putting this project on the national security agenda as well with this presentation. That there's a big shortage of primary teachers. We are short of almost 9 lakh primary teachers, and we are short of secondary teachers. We are short of almost 1.6 lakh secondary teachers. So I'm talking between classes 5 and that movement that happens between classes 5 and 6 and 8 and 9. Yeah, so we've got a shortage of almost 2 million teachers over there. And then, the lack of focus on secondary education is also affecting our skills development in this country. So if you see the graphic, you've seen the way the water, it's like a waterfall, how the school numbers are falling. And then the kind of implications it has when the government talks about taking India from a $2.5 trillion, $2.8 trillion economy that is today to $7.5 trillion by 2030, 2032. So these are the challenges, and unless you improve the human, make major investments in human resources, you will not be able to achieve that target. So when we went about thinking about this, the resources required are naturally very big. So we said, how do we bridge this gap? So we have there are two places where we have done major innovation. The first is financial innovation, because how do you generate 14.95 lakh crores? This is a major question. So we have done a lot of work on financial innovation. And the second place where we have innovated is on the technological front. How do you get very high quality education inputs to 6.2 lakh locations across the country? How do you cover every village with secondary education inputs? So this is the, in very brief, I'm just explaining this slide. We can move on to the next. Yeah. So this is the operating model of the project. We've got a short-term solution, which is the 6 months to 6 seconds project. So we have figured out how to, reduce the latency, the time taken for funds from the being released in the from the Ministry of Education to reach the village school. So we want to reduce that time from 6 months to 6 seconds using mobile phones and IT protocols. Okay. So this is something that I will explain the 6 months to 6 seconds project a little later. The second thing is the Vivekananda School in the Cloud. Now this is based, it's a large scheme by itself, and it's based, I have directly, I do not hesitate in taking ideas from people who got much better ideas than me. Okay, so I have straight away copied Dr. Sugata Mitra's work on, rural education, and we have taken that to create something called School in a Cloud. He has tried this in West Bengal, and we want to upscale it from the number of schools they are doing to 6 lakh schools. And we'll be using 4G and 5G telecom networks to do this. The next, the short-term solutions are the 6 months to 6 second project to improve financial efficiency in the school system, and Vivekananda School in the Cloud to reach, using 4G and 5G technology, reach schools, 6.2 lakh schools across the country. Then we have got a medium-term solution, which is the construction of 30,000 secondary schools and skill development centers and teacher training centers across the country. Now, this project, I will explain that in detail, how we will build the schools, how we will finance them, but these will be completely new schools. 80% of them will be in rural areas. And we are going to, each of these schools, these 30,000 schools, is going to share its teaching resources with 20 other schools across the country, in its area, sorry. So each school will share its teaching resources with 21 other schools, and we'll be reaching 6.2 lakh school locations across the country. The fourth aspect of this project is its teacher-centric design. See, what was happening in India was that the worst qualified were joining the teaching profession, and this has been happening for the last 30 years. So we have tried to the facilities that are going to be provided to teachers in the Vivekananda Education Megaproject are world-class facilities. So we want to encourage a shift of people, when they consider a profession after getting out of college, he should say, why shouldn't I join a school? Why shouldn't I teach? This was when we had teachers at the head of the social system in India thousands of years ago, and up to the time when these invasions happened, our country was doing extremely well. So we want to invite and we want to create, incentives for the best qualified to join our schools. So we've got a recruitment strategy for 2.2 million teachers. And that is why this whole idea is, if you have a teacher-centric design of the school system, remember, this is not a literacy-centric system. There's a big difference between the current system that is being done in India today. That's a literacy-centric system. We want to get everybody into school, the education for all. This thing. I'm just adding one more component to that. We are saying, let us also add features that make teachers come into the best qualified people should take up careers in education. So this is the second thing. And then we are going to combine secondary education with skills development. This is where this part of the project implements Professor Moni's idea of rural entrepreneurship and spreading wealth across the rural spectrum. So from class 8 itself, children will be given vocational training, and it will be done in a certain way, and there will be close to 2,000 courses that they can learn from, and there will also be entrepreneur centers in these 30,000 schools. And it's a hub and spokes design, as I've said, is the operating model of this project. Okay, next please. Yeah. So what are the investment multiplier impacts of this project? It will lift 300 million people out of poverty in 15 years. It will increase the efficiency of 192 million children and 5.23 million teachers working in 8,58,916 schools. It uses 4G telecom technologies. It will prevent 150 million children from dropping out of school. It will produce 400 million skilled workers by 2032. And it will incentivize 2.2 million new teachers to join the system. It will earn, this project, see, it's a foreign exchange earner. It will earn $6.8 billion each year by 2032 in foreign exchange. It will fundamentally improve construction quality and create a new $1 trillion construction industry across 6 lakh villages in India. So while the investment multiplier impact of the project, direct investment multiplier impact of the project is around $615 billion on the Indian economy, its net addition in terms of GDP will be $3 trillion addition to GDP in the next 15 years. Go ahead, please. Next slide. Can you go to the next slide? Yeah. So this is the financing part. There's going to be a separate, on capex and opex financing. We have found ways to not just finance the capex, but the operational cost of these schools as well. So on the capex side, we will raise 14.95 lakh crores, and on the opex side to run the schools, there's another financing mechanism to raise 2.21 lakh crores. And the details, you can download all these details from the Nataraja Foundation website. All these documents are there. Yeah. Okay. The project has a PPP operating scheme. Now, what we have done is we have innovated on the PPP mechanism as well. So, though if you look at the cost of the schools, they're going to be, I'm talking now about the schools, they're going to be 25,500 day schools and 4,500 residential schools. The day schools will cost 28.6 crores per unit to build, and the residential schools will cost 75.74 crores to build each school. Why are the schools more expensive than other schools? They are more expensive because each facility has very nice facilities for teachers. We have focused on teacher facilities in these schools. Of course, the schools are built on the Laurie Baker, and there was an architect called R.L. Kumar whose designs I have taken to build extremely low-cost construction quality of very good quality at 1,750 rupees per square feet. So we'll be building these schools using that low-cost, elegant architecture, and because the teacher facilities are world-class, that is why the cost of the schools per unit on a day school and a residential school, because it's going to provide, even for the day schools, there will be full accommodation for teachers. Okay. The second part of this project is how do we make it affordable we want to encourage teachers, teacher groups, as preferred bidders. We want education trusts to get into education. We want private sector school management companies to come in. So it is going to create an ecosystem for all these people to come in. And one of the ways to get teacher groups to come into this project is by reducing the amount of money that they have to put in as equity. So for what we have done is, we have said that if a teacher group comes together to set up a school worth, say, 28 crores, the teacher group has to only come up with 2 crores. The rest of the financing is taken care of by our financial structure. The same thing happens with the residential school, where the requirement for setting up for the promoter's equity is around 5.5 crores. So when this project equity they put in and they bid for the project, the monies, if they win the bids based on the kind of criteria that we have laid out, they will have to put in that equity, and the rest of the financing mechanism will be raising the rest of the money for the day school or residential school. Now, 85% of the project will be owned by the union government, because the money is being generated at the union government level. The PPP will be, the bidding for the schools will be handled by the state level, and we will not. One of the things that we have done is since education is a state subject, we have not tried to dictate the syllabus that is to be followed. I have kept the project has just kept out of the syllabus completely. We are just interested in financing infrastructure to bring in firstly the infrastructure, and the second thing is the technological inputs and the technological infrastructure to reach those many children. We are not getting into the syllabus part of the project. And this project document can be downloaded from the internet. I will restrict my discussion to it at this point. Next, please. Okay. Now, what will success look like when the project is built?
Just one minute.
Yes,
Mr. Ashish, can we go to the previous 2 slides before? Because you quickly go through it. People wanted to see that, let them see that. You mentioned they can download from the website. You can ask, Mr. Manish, can you go 2 slides before? Okay, fine. So let's wait for 1 minute so that people will be in a position to see that, and you can also explain once again that where from it can be downloaded and so on and so forth.
Okay, go 1 slide ahead, Manish. 1 slide before this. That's the capex plan. 1 slide before. Yeah. So this is the capex plan, which will provide the money for the for the construction of the schools. And there are 14 different sources of financing. I'll refer to this briefly. Now, for instance, 3% we've got a forex reserve of around $630 billion today. The Deepak Parekh committee has said that it will that India can bring back 3% of our forex reserves, which is almost $18 billion to the country, which is 1,30,000 crores, to give a very quick start to the project. So this can be done within months. We can get this money into the country and start up the project. And the part 1 and 2 that we have talked about, it can come in and quickly start it. So it can then bidding rounds for schools in a cloud, that will generate some money. Unutilized funds with various ministries can be added to the financing of this project. Then there is coordinated CSR funding. So companies on a consolidated basis can put in money into this project. Then there is equity infusion by 30,000 promoters of these schools. So that is another source of funding. For day school, they will be giving 2.5 crores, and for residential schools, that's 5.5 crores. So that is another component of the funding. Then there is a 7.53% of disinvestment from PSUs. That is another source of funding. And then there's an unutilized secondary and higher education cess. So these are the non-tax based funding sources. Then there is something called PSU owned land banks in metro cities. So this is something called urban equity withdrawal, and I have dealt with that on in another forum, where I have said we have got close to 93 lakh crores, 1.25 trillion US dollars locked in our cities. I'll give you a small example. Larsen and Toubro had made a presentation to the government of Maharashtra for a 93-acre plot in Bandra East. Larsen and Toubro said, we will develop the plot, we will spend 30,000 crores on it, we will sell it for 1,25,000 crores and give the government of Maharashtra 70,000 crores in cash from this 93-acre property. So that is the kind of money that is locked in city land banks. So I just wanted to share it that, when we talk about the project and we've got so many schemes and we've got so many sources of funding, there is an enormous amount of money locked in our cities. We want to release that in a coordinated manner and bring it into the school system. Then there is, something called land conversion at city limits. I don't want to go into all that because it will complicate this discussion, but I can just tell you that there is a huge amount of money that is lying around which can be used for construction and running of these schools. You can go to the next slide. Then there is, of course, for the operation of the project, there is something called education cess we already have. Then some of the NREGA funds can go into it. Then there's something called a quantized Tobin tax on forex transactions, which will again contribute a large amount of money. Most of our employers have got graduates for free. Why should they get graduates for free? So there's something called a graduate tax. If you are employing a graduate, companies will have to pay a certain amount of money as graduate tax, so that this money can be spent back into on creating those graduates. Okay, so there are various kinds of there are 14 sources, and I can assure this audience that the amount of thinking that has gone in financing of this project, there is no other project in the world that has done this much of thinking to assemble these many sources of funding which have not been tapped as yet. Okay, so this is on the financing side. Then you can go to the next slide. Then we have a discussion on the PPP structure. We can take these questions whenever they have.
Yes, just 1 minute. Once again, ask them to go back to the previous one. This is Mr. Manish. This is that 7 and 8 innovative open financing pools. Okay, very good. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Carry on.
Yeah. So the next slide, please. Okay, I have already spoken about the PPP mechanism that will be used to finance these schools. So as I said, 85% of the capex will come from the government, because when we have the financing mechanisms that I have just described on the capex side, it will be gathering the money in a central fund, which will be held by something called the Indian Social Infrastructure Corporation. So this organization, which will be set up, it will collect all this money, and then it will be sent to the when some of the money comes from the school management, from the bidders for the project. So these two funds will be joined and the school will be built. And the schools are being run on a certain digital protocol, which I will explain later. So there's going to be a PPP mechanism which will get in the money and which will have a build, own, operate, and transfer. So the schools will be built by the Social Infrastructure Corporation and then handed over to the private player to run. And after the running of the project, they'll get a concession to run the schools for around 30 years. And on the successful running of these schools, either they will be allowed to retain the schools to run it if they're running it well, or they will be transferred to new bidders. It will again be given out on bidding. So this is the kind of build on operate and transfer mechanism that we have in the project. Okay, next. I've already described. So this is about the strategic objectives of the project. See, currently, if you look at how the funding is happening, there is the amount of money being spent on secondary schools in India is 4,215 crores each year. This is the current budget. With this project, the Vivekananda Education Megaprojects funding mechanism, we want to increase that funding for secondary education from 4,215 crores to 1,45,000 crores each year, and consistently pump in that money for 10 years to build these schools. So there is going to be a huge increase in the amount of funding that goes into secondary education. From 4,000 crores, it goes to 1,45,000 crores. And then we'll be adding, the net impact will be, we'll be adding $3 trillion to GDP by 2043, when all these schools are built and have been run already for 10 years. So you can see the amount of money that will get into secondary education and how it is going to be deployed. Okay, the next slide, please. Okay, now let us talk about the kind of construction quality that we are talking about. This is the work of an architect. He was a good friend of mine. He passed away quite early. But R.L. Kumar's work is the kind of work, the kind of construction quality that we want to spread to every taluka and village in this country. Can you imagine what will happen if this kind of construction quality reaches our villages? Excellent world-class construction quality at 1,750 rupees per square foot. All materials will be, this is also one of the largest low carbon projects in the world. It's built on Laurie Baker's basic concept that all the construction materials for the project should be collected from within a 5-kilometer radius of the schools. So it's going to use random rubble, it's going to use jambori rock, it's going to use bauxite, and it's going to use burnt brick construction and all local materials. And it's called vernacular infrastructure. And once the schools come up, everybody in the village will see the kind of construction quality in the school, and it's being built at such a low cost. He'll say, I also want it. So the school will act as a catalyst for the construction of all new housing at the rural level. So it will create a $1 trillion construction business in low-cost housing in the country. So we expect it will create 15 million new jobs only in low-cost housing construction. This project will create, just because of the people see it and want to build something similar. Yeah. So this is the kind of construction quality. Next project. Next slide, please. Okay. Now I'll come to the detailed project presentation. Next slide. So I put up this figure of this girl, and she's a small girl in a school, in a village school, and she is now thinking, how do I take an economy of 2.5 trillion and convert it into a 7.5 trillion dollar economy by 2032? And this is her dream that we are talking about. So how can India go from? We need to have a 15-year planning horizon in education. To where huge. We don't get stuck in 5-year plans. So it is. When you think in terms of 15 years, your financing flexibility increases tremendously. So that is one of the aspects here. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah, it is based on Swami. Go back, please. One slide back. Yeah, the project is based on Acharya Vinoba Bhave's concept of Sarvodaya. So we don't want to build schools in a pyramid kind of form that is being done in Dubai. We want to spread that development over a larger population, where a huge number of people benefit.
Ashish, the slide, yes. He has gone one slide before or back.
Yes, he's got to go one slide forward.
Forward, yeah. Mr. Manish.
Yeah. This is Acharya Vinoba Bhave's concept of education, or concept of development, where you spread development, the rise of all. We want the whole country to rise. It is not just 10% of the population where you have in China or Dubai, where 10% of the population is doing well, especially in China. But I'm saying we want to spread this development all over the country, right? So this is the Sarvodaya concept of development. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah. So Swami Vivekananda had said that education is the manifestation of perfection already in man. See, this is a Vedic idea. Vivekananda had said that a human birth takes place after several thousand births. So when you are born, you're already perfect. So the job of a teacher is just to bring out that latent divinity in a man. So that is, he says, education is the manifestation of perfection already in man. So this is one of the Vedic ideas on which this project is based. We want to create a economically and socially resilient society by bringing up the absolute deprived people and getting them into the education system. Next one, please. Next slide. Yeah, the need for the project. Next slide. Okay, so as I've explained earlier, there's 8,58,000 primary schools. There's 5,89,000 secondary schools as you move from class 5 to class 6. So there's 39% dropout happening here. And then you got, as you move from class 8 to class 9, there is 2,37,000 schools. So totally we are short of around 6,21,000 schools up to the secondary level. So that is why this project has been designed to bridge this gap. Next slide, please. Okay, this is the fund flow mechanism that happens in our schools today. Okay, there's a 4-layer approval process. Then the money is released from the Ministry of Education in Delhi. It goes through a 4-level approval process before it reaches the schools. And this approval process takes 6 months today. We want to use protocols, mobile phones, and IT protocols and mobile phones to reduce this from 6 months to 6 seconds. This concept is based on a paper by Mrs. Yamini Iyer. It was written in 2011, but the problem was going on even before the pandemic. So I am expecting that this problem still exists, and we still have a problem where I have checked with schools and they have said they are not receiving their money in time. So we want to have the 6 months to 6 seconds project to reduce this latency, the time latency, and get it to improve the financial efficiency of the schools. There's around almost 26,000 crores that moves from the central government to the schools each year. Now this money, as if you were to reduce this time from 6 months to 6 seconds, it will save you 1,150 crores in just interest cost. And the other part is the increase in efficiency, which I have quantified. I've tried to quantify what is the increase in efficiency, which I'll come to. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay. This is the amount of the current budgetary allocation in 2018. We had 50,000 crores to school education, on which the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan was getting around 4 lakh, getting around 4,215 crores. Yeah. So there's the amount of money going to secondary schools is very small in the country today. We want to increase this from the current level of 4,200 crores to 1,45,000 crores. So that is why this slide has been shown. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah. So, this remain here. Now, this is a big bet we are taking. If you look at the graphic, the pie chart, see, we have got close to 84% of the population in this country that have only studied up to class 8. 84% of the population in this country has studied up to class 8. Beyond class 8, which is secondary and higher secondary education, there's only 16.4%. So the Indian economy is this whole thing of taking the economy from $2.8 trillion to $7.5 trillion by 2032. We are betting essentially that 16% of the population can drag the balance 84% to that level of GDP. I think that thinking needs to change very fundamentally if it has to be made a reality. That is why this education project is extremely critical to our economy. This graphic brings out that one point. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah. So this is about the skills problem we have. We have a shortage of 119 million people of a certain and just adding the various areas. Like we've got a shortage of 31 million people in construction and real estate. In retail, we've got 17.3 million people shortage. Transportation and logistics 11.66. Furniture and furnishing 7. Tourism 6.48. So there is a big shortage of skills. So this project aims to bridge that skill gap, by starting skills development in class 8. Next slide. Yeah. See, as I have said before, teacher quality is affecting women's safety in India. A 2007 NUPA study showed that 46% of Indian teachers have not studied beyond class 12 and 25% have not studied beyond class 10. Now, if you studied we've done a study of the crimes that have been happening against women, and we have seen that the criminals who are doing this have come from places where teacher quality is pretty low. So that is why we feel that there is a link between teacher quality and violence and disrespect of women in this country. So we want to change that by improving teacher quality. And I think that is why I've said the solution to this problem lies in the Ministry of HRD. And we have got to therefore improve teacher quality in India, because it has a direct impact not just on women's security, but national security as well. Because if our women are not safe, it becomes a national security issue. They're 50% of the population. So I want to put this on the agenda of the National Security Advisor, to say that teacher quality is now a national security issue. Next. So we need more secondary schools and a better teacher quality. Let's see how we can do this. Next slide. So let's go to the skills project, please. Next slide. So this project has been, there's currently the first part of the project deals with low financial efficiency and operational efficiency. And then the second part of the project deals with the construction of the 30,000 schools, where we are dealing with the 89% dropout rate. Next slide. Now this is a project in 2 parts. Next. Part 1, which is solving the funds flow problem. It's called the 6 months to 6 seconds project. Next. Okay. So these are reports which I have gathered from various sources, news reports between 2016 and 2018, which says that the problem still persists. The schools are still receiving the money late. And if you notice, I'm not updated it in 2019, but this problem hadn't been solved even in 2019. So it still exists in 2021. Next slide. Okay. So what is the problem? Many teachers in our money is not reaching our school 6 to 7 months late. First thing. Second problem is tens of thousands of school teachers are not receiving their salaries in time. In many cases, teacher salaries are getting delayed by 3 to 6 months. And sometimes when the teachers are providing money from their own savings to run the schools. The third problem is the top-down planning, the way planning is done in schools. So the things are decided. The school management committees are not having a say in what they require. Let's say a school requires benches for students. This thing is not getting conveyed properly into the system. So we want to digitize this. We want to build a digital platform to do all this. So the digital platform everything will be a mobile run platform, which the school management committees will enter their requirements into that mobile phone interface. That interface will get uploaded to the district level, to the block and district level. Then there'll be approvals granted there. And then when the money comes in, there will be very little latency so the money will come with an instruction. What is it to be used for based on the school requirement? So there is very little, in our system today, we have got too much rigidity. So if a school already has furniture and it has been decided at the district level or at the state level to give money for furniture, all the money goes for furniture regardless of whether the school requires it or not. So with this mobile phone interface, we change all that. And how much does it cost? The mobile phone system and this entire software system that we're talking about takes just a few crores to build and implement across the country. Maybe 3-4 crores it takes. I'm talking about the software, right? So when you build out this system and the impact, you're saving just an interest cost, you're saving 1,150 crores each year. And you're going to be saving on the efficiency of 200 million children and 5.53 million teachers. Okay, so this is a very small thing that we want to do to solve this problem. We want to, it will need a tie-up between a bank and a software company to do this. Okay, so that is essentially what it will take to implement this thing and improve the efficiency of 200 million children and 5.53 million teachers across India. Next slide, please. I have calculated what is the loss to GDP that is happening because of this problem. And my numbers, when you affect the financial efficiency and the working of 200 million children and 5.53 million teachers, the cost to the economy over a 25-year period is $2.27 trillion US. That is the cost of not having this mobile phone system and this approval process at the block and at the block and at the district level. This is how much it is costing the country. It's already cost us this much money over the last so many years. I'm saying let us solve it so it doesn't cost us another $2.27 trillion over the next 25 years. These documents are available, so anybody can download it and cross-check what my calculations are. Right? Next slide. So how do we solve the money flow process? I'm saying let us decentralize how the school budget is done. Let teachers, we need to give teacher salaries first priority. So I want to, what we are saying here is that we want to improve the teacher experience. Can we improve the teacher experience with digital technology? So if the teacher is happy, if he gets his money on his salary on time, we don't want a 3 to 6 month delay in teacher salaries. They're already doing so much service. Why should their teacher salaries be delayed? We also want to build predictability to the fund flow so that the school knows, definitely within 6 seconds on such and such a date, whenever that decision is taken in Delhi, this money is going to reach my, my account. So it brings huge predictability, and he's able to, plan his operations in his school properly. Today, it's taking 6 months. They don't even know when it is coming. The third thing is, can we train 5.23 million elementary school teachers to prepare school budgets? So there will be a platform that will be created. This will be a web-based platform. It won't be on the mobile phone, but it will train teachers and to prepare school budget. So there will be a standard budget document that is uploaded, and they can download it and prepare school budget. So this will be another piece of software which can be added to the system, and they will be able to prepare their budgets, and it will make the thing work very nicely. Then build a time management information system that tracks school expenditures. So every time that system will also track the expenditure according to that budget. And so we will the transfer system will be made very granular. So amount of money we'll be able to measure with metrics. We'll be able to measure how much money is being spent per child, and then provide a school management committees, and the money they receive will be tied to the block level grants system. So these are the changes that will be made to the existing system with this digital platform. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah. So these are the I've just shown the workflow. I've already described what will happen, but this shows the work. These 2 slides will show the workflow of how that thing is from 6 months, it's reduced to 6 seconds. I've already described it. We can go on to the next slide. Yeah. So there is there's a middleware, there's a backend, and how the money flows. Yeah. So what will success look like once you implement this 6 months to 6 seconds project? What are the payoffs, right? So teachers get paid on time every time. Almost 192 million children with 5.23 million teachers their productivity will be increased, and we'll be saving around $2.27 trillion over the next 25 years. And the ballpark cost of the project to see all this happen is 4 crores. So I'm saying, why don't we do it instantly? Next slide, please. Okay. Now, part 2 is how do we reduce the massive gap in secondary education and skills capacity in this country, and how do we do it fast? So, this is we are coming to the Vivekananda School in the cloud now, where you will be using 4G and 5G technologies to reach village schools in the fastest possible time, given the infrastructure we have currently. So this is a project that can be executed in the next 2 years. Next slide, please. So as I've said before, this is the problem that we have. So we have got to get that secondary education inputs to the schools as soon as possible. Next slide. And then the plight of our teachers. You've seen that literally they're begging, right? They're teachers who are not being looked after currently. Next slide. They're working under very poor conditions. Next slide. There's no furniture, there's nothing. So, Professor Hanusek of Stanford University, he has said, how much is a good teacher worth? This paper is worth reading. He says that if you spend money on teacher benefits, Professor Hanusek says that if you spend money on teacher benefits, it is the biggest investment a country can make in its future. You look after, that is why it is the primary reason why India 2000 years ago was the top economy in the world, because the teachers were at the top of the hierarchy. And this Stanford University paper shows this. He has actually quantified in US dollar terms how much GDP enhancement happens per good teacher. Next slide. So we carry on, please. Go ahead. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah. So I've just said we have gone wrong in the last 80 years. India was doing extremely well until 1,000 years ago. Then we had our gurukuls and we had all that, and then we had a skewed policy that says let's increase literacy. So we started building more primary schools. We started doing all that. And we didn't spend on secondary education, we didn't spend on teacher quality, we didn't spend in these areas. So when you are just interested in literacy, it's okay for the, to just employ people at a minimal level. But when you want a GDP enhancement, like you want to jump from $2.8 trillion to $7.5 trillion, that same logic of literacy will not work. You have got to make investments. And the only way you can do it by investing in secondary education. We have tried with this Vivekananda project to bring financial innovation to secondary education. And if the government doesn't have the money in the budget, we say, okay, we don't need that money. We have formed 14 different sources of raising the 14.595 lakh crores to make it possible. Next slide. So in 5 steps, I'll show you how this will change. Next slide. So the first thing is the Vivekananda School in the Cloud program. We have taken this idea from Professor Sugata Mitra's experiment in West Bengal. Okay, so this is how the schools will look, and we want to expand that from the current number of schools which have digital education to all the schools. Now, where is this money going to come from? So the first tranche of the project, the first step that we will do is to ask the government to get that 3% of money that is lying in US dollar denominated bonds. $630 billion is lying in US treasury bills. We are saying, and already, the Deepak Parekh committee has said that India should get back 3% of that money and deploy it in schools. So we are saying this, if you want to expand that, if you want to build IT infrastructure in these schools, you can get in, the first tranche of the project is getting that 1,35,000 crores which is locked in US treasury bills to build out this school in the cloud. Half of that money will be used to build the school in the cloud, and half of that money will be used to construct the school. So, you've got a quick start happening. It will be a quick start. So you've got funding coming immediately for the project. Of course, when you take US dollars and convert it into rupees, you'll be buying rupee and selling dollars. So that $18 billion, when it comes in, there will be some sterilization things on the forex side, but it's not much. It's, we have that kind of flows happening regularly. It's not such a huge amount of money. It can be spread over some time, but the rupee dollar exchange rate will not change, but this money can be brought in. So this is the school in the cloud is the first part of, is the second part of part 1, which was 6 months to 6 seconds project was the first part where you increase financial efficiency, and school in the cloud was the second part where you bring in IT infrastructure to deliver 4G and 5G based networks to all schools across India. Next slide, please. So this is the cost of every school in the cloud. We have gone and talked to IT experts, and we have figured out how much it will cost to build each of these schools, each of these cloud schools. So there's a certain amount of, there'll be some construction required, some IT equipment required, and we have looked at very heavy duty IT equipment, which doesn't get affected easily. So that is why some of the IT equipment is more expensive than the rest, because of the severity of the operating conditions. So that is why it's a little more expensive, but this is industrial grade, IT equipment that we are installing, very hardy IT equipment. And the total cost for covering 6,21,000 locations across the country is 2,99,000 crores. So if we get 1,35,000 crores from US Treasury bonds into the country, some of that money will be going to finance the first pilots of this project and it's not a pilot, actually it will be a large scale implementation where we can take up, say, 50,000 locations, 60,000, or maybe a lakh of locations in the first phase, and put in this infrastructure and see how it runs, and then get the balance money. So, but we have done what I want to say is that we have done a very detailed calculation about how much each one of those schools in the cloud is going to cost. Yeah. So, and the total cost of 6,21,000 locations is 2.99 lakh crores. Next slide, please. Okay. This is the there's on the Vivekananda project website, there is a detailed Excel sheet which shows the detailed breakdown by category of how these 30,000 schools, how they will be built and how much each school will cost. So each school, as I said, if it's a day school, it will cost 28.6 crores, and a fully residential school will cost 75.74 crores. And the cost of these schools is higher than normal schools because you are providing excellent teacher accommodation in each school. So, and then we are providing even facilities to share these teachers with 20 other schools in its area. So the entire cost has been included in this capex. It's very detailed calculations have been done for this. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah. So this is the phased implementation of the project. How will we be spending 14.95 lakh crores over 4 phases between 2022 and 2034? This is how it shows how the money will be spent. In the first phase, there will be, these cloud schools, 36 schools in between will be built first. Then there will be directly will go down after doing that first pilot. We directly implement in 6,21,000 locations. And with that phase 2, we after building those schools in phase 2, we also built 564 teacher training centers and mason training centers, and 6,000 of the schools of the actual schools will be built. Then phase 3 will have 9,000 schools. Phase 4 will have 15,000 schools. So in this way, we'll cover all the 30,000 locations, and there will be bidding rounds for each phase. So people who are teacher groups, education trusts, school management companies, all these people will bid for these projects. And if you're coming in as a teacher group, let's say you're a group of say 10 teachers who wants to build a school, you have to put up equity of 2 crores, which you can borrow from a bank. And then that equity of yours, which you have provided, will be combined with 85% of the financing that will come from the government under the financing structure of the project, and that school will be built. This is for a day school. If it is a residential school, that group will have to provide 5 crores, either through whichever means they want to raise that money, and the balance 72 crores will be provided by the 70 crores will be provided by the financing mechanism. Yeah. So that is how we will be building out this infrastructure. And it's, I think when you set up a large organization this requires a large organization to construct it. So something called the Indian Social Infrastructure Corporation, with almost 600 architects, let's say 5,000 engineers. This kind of organization will be building out these schools across the country. So this Social Infrastructure Corporation is very essential to set up to execute this project. Next slide. Okay, now coming to locally relevant vocational education. This is the part where we are talking about Professor Moni's concept, which he has been also talking about, of rural entrepreneurship and skills development, where from class 8 onwards, a child will be introduced. So we've got a certain mechanism by which it happens. So in class 8, they will be made aware of the various vocations, right? What all they can do. And then in class 9 and 10 and 11 and 12, they will learn that vocation. You can also, people change their mind. So we will also make it flexible. So somebody is not, you can only take one subject and then you are stuck for it for the rest of your life. No, it is not like this. It will be very flexible. So people will be able to change their vocation. They can also add electives that they want to study. And some of these electives will be, that is why we have these 4G and 5G networks, where this learning can be will be happening with a 5G network, right? So there's very low latency. We'll be using, there's a huge potential of developing virtual reality, software, where people, because of we can actually teach children with models. If somebody wants to become a plumber, or somebody wants to become a repair person of some sort, he can learn those skills. Secondly, I want to just relate one particular anecdote over here to explain why this local skills development is so essential. Today, we are giving a lot of importance to English in the country. And I was talking to Sharad Joshi, who was a prominent agriculturist in Bombay. And, one of the people from one of these multinational companies, they were giving a talk on, just before I spoke, they were speaking about, teaching English to children in the slums, teaching English to children in the villages. And Sharad Joshi asked me, he said, Ashish, do you want to teach English to all my children and make them useless in the local economy? That question, which Sharad Joshi asked me, really made me think. Should we be teaching English compulsorily to all children? If it is going to create mass migration to the cities, because only cities provide that kind of thing today. Should we be teaching children everything in English? That is why vernacular education, to teach them skills that will make them relevant in their local economies, is so important. They can always take English as an elective. I've got no problem with that. But there's no need to teach everybody and grade him only because he has knowledge in English. We have got geniuses in other subjects, in other languages, and we have got this in the country. So why shouldn't we have locally relevant knowledge in local language, in their mother tongue, which makes them useful in their local economy? Let us not make people useless in their local economy by insisting on English. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah. So this is how we'll be imparting this vocational training. First of all, there's going to be an awareness provided to the children in class 8. That look, these are the various things that you can do in your local economy. What is your interest? So the child becomes aware of what his interests are, what are the things he would like to do. And we'll also tell him, look, if you change your mind, it's okay. We'll allow you to switch an elective also. There's nothing that you cannot switch it, right? So they will have that freedom. They can have a thing that it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to make mistakes. Okay, very necessary. We have to teach our children that mistakes are acceptable. The third thing is, in class 10, you start building the skill, and in class 11 and 12, you master it. So what does technology do? Technology just enables them to learn. So there will be almost 2,000 electives like you have in Canada. 6,000 vocational courses are offered in Canada. In India, we have only 200. Why not make them all available on the internet using virtual reality and augmented reality with 5G systems? It is possible. Why not teach children with holograms? All of this will become possible with that. When we get in these US Treasury bonds, we liquidate. Why are we spending and financing the US economy by putting $630 billion in US Treasury bills? Can we not get 3% of that money back to India and invest it in this? The kind of investment that we will be making in our children will be huge, and it needs to be done. Next. So I'm saying, how do we promote excellence in our education system? I've got children who are in class 6 and class 9, and I ask them questions. My main job is to ask them questions. Okay, you have learned, this particular theory. What is its relevance to practical life? So are children being asked, when you learn Newton's first law, when you learn some other thing, how relevant it is to you? How are you going to apply it? There has got to be, don't cover syllabus. I am not much in favor of covering syllabus and running through syllabus. It's important to cover syllabus, but first, provide the means for a child to learn at their own pace. Very important to allow children to learn at their own pace, and that is one more reason why this 4G and 5G network is so essential. They, at the touch of a button, they can have these electives in 4G rendering, in 3G rendering, in virtual reality. They come and they see the thing, right? So this can be done. Next. Okay. Now coming to the kind of how do we attract 2.2 million teachers into the system? Now, when I was in Reliance, I used to go and ask the secretaries. I used to go and talk to the secretaries and ask them. I would say that, look, suppose you are given a choice between working in this company and working in your taluka where you come from, and you're given an excellent house like I'm showing in these pictures, would you consider a shift? And 60% of them said yes. And I'm sure that if 60% of people who are, working in these, they are graduates, these secretaries are graduates, they're people who are working as various levels, these people can definitely become teachers. There's one more thing that we need to do in terms of educational reform. Why should every teacher be a B.Ed if it's required only to teach up to, if he's teaching class 8 student? There's no need. Why shouldn't we have retired people, with a 4G network connect to a school, and why shouldn't we allow them to get into our school system and teach the subject of their choice? they are wasting enormous resources in this country by not having the platforms and not having the protocols and rules that are flexible, that allow these kind of people to teach. Instead, we are having a large amount of resource which are graduates which are not being utilized. And we have got people who have 25% of our teachers haven't studied up to class 10, which is affecting women's safety. So there is a need for a platform, for an electronic digital platform that comes in and intermediates all this and connects it. Okay, so that a learner is connected to a teacher at very low cost. So we need to build that system. Now, coming back to this thing about, for what are the facilities we'll be providing these 2.2 million teachers? We are providing them with free housing, right? Financial assistance with setting up schools. That is what the teacher groups are all about. So these 5 or 10 teachers can come together and bid for school projects. Then we offer them free healthcare and a teacher's pension fund. Countries in the United States, Canada, they've got huge teacher pension funds. So there have got to be, some way for teachers to invest in index funds, which, give you almost a 12% return every year. So they will be incentivized to do this. So one is housing, free healthcare, and all that. The next slide, please. Okay. So this is about how do we create a new generation of teachers in this country who have got amazing opportunities. And I'll explain how this we will do. See, out of those 2.2 million teachers who will join this system, 5% will be deputed on foreign assignments for 3 to 6 months in a year. So we are going to export teachers from this country. When these people come in, even the existing teachers, they'll be allowed to come together and create small companies to produce educational content. The system will provide, the digital platform will provide for a collaborative work environment where teachers can come together in groups and create, very interesting content. And when these teachers produce this content, they will also be noticed around the world. So they will export some of this content. So I'm expecting that the export, not just of physical teachers, but this content as well, will create an income of around a national income, a forex earning of $6.8 billion every year. So this school system, the Vivekananda school system, will create wealth. It's not just building infrastructure, it will create new businesses. It will create 6 million new jobs directly connected with the school system. This is what it will do. Next, please. Okay, so I'm saying, can we have breakthrough educational reforms? So my first question is, how do we solve the massive teacher shortage problem? It is like this solution that I'm talking about is like, it's an Alexandrian solution. If people remember, Alexander had gone to a place called Gordium, and it was a village where a cart had been tied to a post in the city center and in the town center, and it was written, whoever solves the riddle of this knot will rule the world. And Alexander cut that knot with his sword, and he solved the Gordian problem. So we want something similar in education. So I'm saying, why should a B.Ed degree be necessary to become a school teacher? If you are teaching up to class 8, and if you have done just your graduation, an ordinary graduation, why shouldn't you be allowed? Number one. The second, we've got teacher-pupil ratios of 68:1 in many places. So by doing this, we'll solve this. And teachers' shortages will be immediately a thing of the past. The second thing is minimum attendance requirement. Should we be focusing on minimum attendance, or should we be focusing on outcomes? This is for schools to decide. And if you're providing that educational content in the form of 3D graphics, virtual reality, and stuff like that, then you should insist on, however way a child completes the course, he can complete the course and he can get those many credits for watching those videos, and then he can answer an exam. So attendance shouldn't be a requirement. And then this Right to Education Act, can we tweak the act a little bit? Can we say that a school, if it uses 4G and 5G technology, let's say there's a school that is in a city, it has to admit a certain number of children from poor households. Can we provide them an alternative which says that we, instead of educating 3 children, we'll educate 21 children using a 4G network? So you are having a 7-fold increase with the enrollment, and at the same time you're providing this school is buying that technology. So there's business for the vendor who is developing and providing the system, and the schools are for increasing their coverage by almost 700%. So the RTE system needs to be tweaked to incorporate these ideas. Next slide. So what is the operating model of the schools? And let's go to that. I'll just explain.
Can you rush up, Mr. Ashish?
Yes, I will finish it in, we are on slide, which slide is it? 57. In the next 10-15 minutes, I'll finish it. Okay. So coming to the operating model of the schools. See, as I said before, each school will will share its teaching resources with 21 other schools. And the schools will be run on a voucher system. So I want to just explain the voucher system in some detail. So each voucher pays for the education, not of 1 student, but 21 students. And the voucher has been devised so the poorest children from the backward communities, for the same score, he will get a preference to admission. Next slide. Yeah. So this is the voucher system is also based on Acharya Vinoba Bhave's concept of, lifting the masses. Next slide. So this is the voucher system workflows. So there will be a grading of all the schools. See, what happens is, how do we ensure that the most people who need the education get it first? So each school will be graded. Each of the 8.58 lakh schools in India will be graded according to and the student studying in that school will also be graded. So he will have a grade. So what is his family income? What is the school that he is attending? So all this will be graded, and there will be a number, a digital identity formed around that identity, right? Then you have all the students, almost 18 million children will take the aptitude test for entering the Vivekananda school. And based on something called an inverse metric, the student's current history, suppose he comes from a middle class or a rich family, that algorithm will multiply his score on the test with that inverse algorithm of his current profile. So if he is a rich student, he will get a lower score automatically. And because he'll get a lower score, the person who is economically disadvantaged will be getting that seat in those 30,000 schools. So that is how the system will work in short. Next slide. So let me just price the voucher. The price of each voucher is 1,61,023 rupees for the day schools and 2,62,000 rupees for the fully residential schools. So once you win the voucher, the student winning the voucher will be able to exercise it in any one school that he wishes to. But that voucher will take care of the education of 22 children, not just that one student. Because the school is being reimbursed for providing education to 21 other schools in its area. That is why the cost of the voucher is this high. But on a per student basis, you are achieving the lowest cost of education. Next one. Okay, so the per student cost is for the day school is 7,319 rupees, and for the residential school it is 11,927 rupees. All these calculations are provided on the Nataraja Foundation website. You can just download the Excel file and you will find all these calculations there. Next. Okay, so the school has got a digital control system. So what happens is, let's say a concessionaire wins a school and 5% of the children in his school drop out for whatever reason. Either they are not doing their job properly or whatever happens. Instantly, if 3% of the children of the school drop out, it means there's something wrong in the running of the school. So it will trigger a process. The digital control system of the project will trigger a process which will give a show cause notice to the school's management. So why have 3% of your children dropped out? And if that limit crosses 5%, there will be a management change in the school. And the school will be given back on rebidding. for some other more efficient management to run it. So this voucher is actually used as a way to control the schools. Next slide. So as I have said, we want to incentivize people to come into the school. So for a teacher group coming in, it will be 2.02 crores as equity and 5 crores if they want to run a fully residential project. Next slide. And then our teacher recruitment strategy. We are going to provide, as I said, a large number of facilities for teachers. So we are confident that we will be able to recruit 2.2 million teachers by, getting these people and, literally pilfering them away from other professions. We'll be saying that come and join our school system. This is better than working as a secretary in some office. You can become a teacher with excellent facilities and excellent retirement benefits. So that's how we are planning to get our 2.2 million teachers. Next slide. Okay, there is children of special needs. There's a provision in this project to provide for children of special needs. We have thought about it. Next slide. See, we are going to have almost 30,000 military officers after retirement engaging with these schools. So each school will have a strategic advisor who will be a military person who will come and give guidance to the students so that a strategic mindset is built into our children at a very young age. Why is Israel such an advanced country? Because they think strategically. Imagine what will happen if children in class 8, class 9 start thinking strategically and they are informed about how to think in terms of security, how to think basic things, right? Very basic training will be provided to them, not arms training, but this will be strategic thinking, strategic training, which will be provided with the 4G and 5G network. Next. See, this is a part of the project. The project also intends to build 3,000 schools in Bangladesh, because we believe that if you build 3,000 schools in Bangladesh, we'll have less people coming into our country. So this is basically something we are doing to safeguard our interest, but we will build the schools so that the standard of living and the education goes up in Bangladesh as well. Next. Okay. The project will create almost 651,000 dense forests in this country. Each school will have, if it's a day school, there are 25,500 day schools. And each of their assisted schools also will build 1 acre forest, dense forest. The project will provide the funding for it. The project will provide the intellectual and the knowledge base to create these very dense forests. So there will be a huge amount of forest cover created in the country because of this project. Next. This is about the setting up the Indian Social Infrastructure Corporation. There is a similar office in the British government. It's called the Infrastructure and Projects Authority. They have got the mandate to manage projects worth 500 billion pounds sterling, and 200 projects at a time this office can manage. We want to create a similar kind of large projects authority in India. And this will not just look at the school project, it will look at other things as well. The Social Infrastructure Corporation will be just a part of it. Next. Next slide. And this is about the execution timeline. So I'm saying the 6 months to 6 project. The project we have divided into short-term, medium-term, and long-term objectives. So the first two, the 6 months to 6 seconds project can be done immediately by spending 4 crores. It will affect the working of 200 million children and 5.523 million teachers across the country and create a huge net gain in efficiency in the school system. The second project is the school in the cloud, which some of the money will come from these US Treasury bonds that are converted to Indian rupees. Around 1,35,000 crores funding will come in to give a quick start to the Vivekananda project. The third part is the construction of the 30,000 schools, which, as I have said before, we have the financial structure for, and we'll be doing that. Next. I've already gone through the financing. I think those interested can go through it later. So I think I conclude, sir, on my. I've already explained this. Yes.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Mr. Manish, you can come out of this slide mode. Okay. So thank you very much, Mr. Ashish. You're a wonderful presentation and wonderful address. And on a very important project, I was completely mesmerized.
Thank you, sir.
And as a student, is born and brought as a person born and brought up in rural area, and we studied in schools where the teachers were so committed. That's why because of them today we are in such positions.
Yes.
And I'm very happy to host this program through the Soviet Institute of Engineering Technology in association with Ordo, a very important project looking back to basic, that why we have forgotten. Today we have technology, but we have forgotten all our basic principles. And why can't we have it? And you said it very nicely that when you have an vernacular local technology based systems, good facilities, create more teachers.
Yes.
We to have an education to make more clerks.
Yes.
And this is what the British education system, as proposed by Lord Macaulay in
Yes.
1835, has done it.
Yes. Yes.
And even after getting independence, during the last 75 years, we are not able to come out of from that one. We are trying to fix in a little bit here. We are not able to connect all the dots. And this is an important thing today. You have done it. And I wish that we come out with a new education policy. Even though you said it, I also gone through many of the documents which are available in Google, in internet. And this would have become something like a part of the new education policy 2020.
Yes.
Today, what all the things which you are putting it under the secondary education section, since the document is available from 2010 onwards, they're not new thing. And those members who are part of the policy formulations and so on and so forth should have access to this one. At least they should have mentioned some cream of cream of the recommendations or the ideas they would have incorporated. It would have been very nice that.
So I'll tell you very frankly, I have been approaching the Ministry of Education from 2009. There was no response.
No, I have seen
There
it.
was no response.
I don't want to put it. I've gone through your documents, and then I've done a complete search and so on and so forth. And it is, I saw your document in 2009, and up to the latest one. I thought that this is at least this new education policy 2020, because it started from 2015 onwards and final submission by 2019 with the two chairmen and so on and so forth, with Mr. TSR Subramaniam, former cabinet secretary, and then by Dr. Kasturi Rangan, former chairman ISRO and member planning commission, and member planning commission during Dr. Manmohan Singh government. That you looked after higher education. And
so
then
I'll tell you, I'll just intervene.
Just 1 minute. And then he was also associated as to formulate the new education policy 2020 based on the recommendation. And today, what you have done, what have come out is that eye opener. It's brainstormed, and it is very important. It is essential, and there are a lot of queries to be asked, but we will have another session. Have you on that, depending upon the the understanding which is being generated in social media based on this presentation. But what I strongly feel is that it's very important. You have talked about that how to improve financial efficiency. You talked about in many slides, and then you also talked about how the shortage in secondary school is impacting productivity, and in GDP, Indian GDP, and which can be impacting the order of more than $1 trillion. Yes. And then also talked about how to bring in teacher training center facilities, and how to have a preference for disadvantaged children. and also that how to have a financial innovation,
Yes.
and then how to create jobs. I was I would like to just I was noting down that the webinar series, that agriculture sector say that convert agricultural waste to wealth alone will bring in $12 billion per annum.
Yes. Yes.
Then if you adopt to low carbon farming in agriculture, will bring an additional $50 billion per annum. And now you are saying that by having an what do you call this is appropriate secondary education, and the vocational based secondary education with the technology based technical education, with this many schools, cloud based schools, and so on and so forth, and as contemplated in the Vivekananda secondary education mega project, you say that it can be trillion more than the trillion dollars.
I just want to say one thing. I just want to say one thing, sir. See what I have done, and I've taken a conscious thing in this whole design. We have done one thing. We did not want them to have to go back and rewrite any policy. So we just said we will provide the financial innovation, and we will provide the digital pathways, the design of the digital platform, which you just have to say that, okay, we will consider your financing plan of yours, and we will consider this digital platform. And if we do these two things, we will be able to move faster with our education policy. So I do not want them to change any education policy. It's excellent what they have done. We are just saying that we have done, Urjit Patel and I have done the thinking on the financing problem. We have found ways to raise 14.95 lakh crores. Please consider that plan. And secondly, we have thought about how to increase the financial efficiency in the system. Please consider that plan. So we are not at odds with the government. We are completely in sync.
It is not. It is a way forward. How to go for operationalization of the new education policy.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
As proposed, because I also have appreciated many of the after the policy was announced. It is I also in my introductory remark I talked about national education policy, that this is secondary education is an important area. It's education development. It is a growth period, basically.
Yes,
it's a growth period, and the higher education is it is a propulsion, and this is an important thing that all local economy has to prosper. Rural economy has to prosper. It means that our secondary education has to be it's competitive. Means it is a completely knowledge-based secondary education. It should generate knowledge-based economy.
Yeah, and this does not apply only to India. These ideas and this project can be employed in Africa. It can be employed in places like Mongolia. It can be employed in any country around the world. So we have not, it's an experiment, and it can be deployed anywhere.
Yeah. So it's very nice. That's why the secondary education is an important thing. It is something like that. You make the country or break the country.
Yes.
It is. You said it that this is because of that. The secondary education. And if the teachers are not qualified teachers, you also given with the pictorial presentations and analytics and by charts and bar charts. You said that even for to increase women's girls safety, women's safety, you had to have a good quality teachers.
Yes,
and
very
this is another one I would like to mention to you, that you also talked about B.Ed, and this is they would like to bring this B.Ed system, teacher training under the university systems. But the thing is that we need teacher training institute in mathematics, teacher training institute in physics, teacher training institute in chemistry, teacher training institute in local languages, teacher training institute in physics, chemistry, and so on and so forth. Because teaching is an art, and many things stops after getting the B.Ed, becoming a teacher. And the government doesn't have the appropriate budget for training these teachers. And today with the technology, and you need the teacher training, teacher trainers in mathematics for even teaching mathematics in the colleges. So there, what we have it, a PhD in mathematics will teach mathematics. A PhD in mathematics can be is a research scholar in a particular area. Mathematics is a ocean, and so you need to have even people to have this type of verticals are essential. And that's what, when I presented my paper in initial days, for preparing national education policy, that I addressed 450 the school principals of CBSE. I concentrated on secondary education, and I will send it to you. If I have not, I send it to you.
Yes,
that
please.
they have put it about 20 questions. I have answered the way in which you put it. We need that strong teacher training institute in each subject, which is a continuous. They will bring it out pedagogy. They will bring it out research in mathematics, how to teach it. And when a teacher teach mathematics, why in a class of 30, if only some people get 100% mark, and why other people get 0 marks? It is that the same teacher is teaching it. So the thing is that we have to see the understanding of the subject by students. It has to be understood, analyzed, and through the analytical tools, we should be able to make even an average student understand the class, understand the problem, understand the technology, subject, and so on and so forth.
We are also working on a content platform. We are also working on a content platform where I'm looking for partners to create relevant content,
so it's very
and
nice,
package it very well.
Now, it is very nice, Mr. Ashish, and I think that I'm very happy that this is the 44th edition of this webinar series, and it is a very important topic. You talked about it. So secondary education and skill development mega project, and he also named it as the Vivekananda secondary education and skill development. I was very much impressed by one of his famous quote: "Awake, arise, stop not till the goal is reached."
Yes.
Awake, arise, stop not. That till the goal is reached. It's very important, and it will have an impact on rural entrepreneurship and also rural economy in India. Rural economy has to be is digitalized. Rural economy has to be put it on global economy status.
Yes.
That is that we have in this country 63 million small scale entrepreneurs. We have 14.5 crore operational holders of agriculture sector, farming operational holders. This 145 million operational holders and 63 million, the small scale industries. They need, these, capable, people, human resources to increase productivity.
Yes.
And this is that it is the increasing the gap in the human resources for the industry, for the primary sector, secondary sector, tertiary sector has to be bridged. The secondary education schools, secondary education where the schools where the secondary education is undertaken, the students and the teachers are the the real actors, activators, and this the latent heat of energy which is available with the students has to be brought out, and this is the tip of the iceberg.
Yes,
we have to have a smart teacher, we have to have a smart student and a smart system.
Yes,
this is where is an important thing.
80% of these schools are going to come up below taluka level. 80%. So 24,000 of the 30,000 schools will be built at taluka level and below. So it is going to take the whole thing provide excellent education right at the grassroots. This is what it does, this project. And 4,500 of those schools will be of Rishi Valley class. They will be of Rishi Valley infrastructure class. They'll be so beautiful.
So thank you very much. And with your busy schedule, and you are one of the strategic analyst, strategic designer, strategic engineer, and so on and so forth, planner, and so on and so forth. And we are very happy to have you on today's webinar series platform. and it is an important topic. And I will request you to get associated with the Shobhit Institute of Engineering, and
Absolutely.
Technology, DIMTIB University, to promote various your ideas, for making our economy globalized
Thank you
and
so much.
sustainable. That's more important. And with this, I would like to thank you, and I also would like to thank Honorable Chancellor of the Soviet Institute of Engineering and Technology, DIMTIB University, His Excellency, the Secretary General Ordo, and the Vice Chancellor of the University and faculty members of the University, and the participants for participating in this program. And this is about more than 2 hours. It is supposed to be for 1 hour 30 minutes, and we will bring out as a policy paper based on this discussion today, to be sent to the relevant policy makers of both the state government and the central government.
Thank you so much.
With this, we will close the webinar and leave the studio. Thank you very
Thank you,
much,
sir.
Mr.
Thank
Ashish.
you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So thanks for your participation. Greeting from Soviet University. For more research inquiries, please contact Professor Moni, Professor Emeritus and Chairman of the Center for Informatics Development Solutions and Applications, Center for Industry 4.0 Technology Studies and Applications, Former Director General, National Informatics Center, Government of India, New Delhi. My email ID is moni@sovietuniversity.ac.in. Have a nice day. We will close the webinar and leave